"Play this piano, I'll marry you." Those were the words that billionaire heiress Clara Beaumont tossed like a blade at a man she believed beneath her, a janitor named Ethan Cole, who had been quietly pushing his cleaning cart through the gilded corridors of Manhattan's most exclusive club. She had meant it as a joke, a cruel performance for 200 of New York's elite. But by the end of that night, Clara's words would return to haunt her, and Ethan's music would change everything. At 29, Ethan Cole was already carrying the weight of a lifetime. His days began before dawn, riding the 4:30 a.m. subway from Brooklyn into Manhattan, mop handle resting against his shoulder like a soldier's rifle. By sunrise, he was cleaning marble floors, emptying champagne flutes, polishing banisters that caught more wealth in dust than he would ever earn in a year. 7 years earlier, Ethan had been a prodigy at Howard University, praised by professors as a pianist with rare soul. A scholarship to the Manhattan School of Music had been his ticket to a future filled with concerts, acclaim, and stages he had only dreamed of. But life has a way of rewriting sheet music. His father had fallen from scaffolding on a construction site, leaving Ethan the only man left to care for his younger sister Naomi and their ailing mother. The scholarship letter had arrived 3 days after the funeral. Ethan never opened it. Instead, he picked up extra shifts, janitorial contracts, night cleaning crews, anything that paid enough to cover rent and dialysis bills. His dream went quiet, but not dead. On nights when his cleaning rounds ended early, Ethan slipped into an unused practice room at Lincoln Center, where an old security guard named Marcus unlocked the door for him. There, alone with a battered upright piano, Ethan's fingers remembered who he was. For 2 hours he lived not as a janitor, but as the musician he was born to be. But dreams do not pay for kidney surgeries, and Naomi's acceptance letter to Columbia University came with a requirement. She needed a music recording for her dual program in medicine and composition. Ethan could play the piece she'd written. He wanted to, but that meant stepping into the light, exposing himself to a world that had forgotten him. If Ethan lived invisible, Clara Beaumont lived incandescent. Heiress to Beaumont Pharmaceuticals, she glided through Manhattan like royalty, draped in Chanel and Cartier. At 34, she was stunning, feared and admired in equal measure. The Beaumont family name adorned plaques beside Rockefeller and Vanderbilt. Clara's monthly membership at the Meridian Club was worth more than Ethan's annual salary. Clara had little patience for anything she considered ordinary. She loved being the center of attention, controlling rooms and reminding the world that money was power. Her upcoming wellness gala promised to be her crowning jewel, a night of champagne, senators, and carefully staged charity. That morning, Clara's eyes had fallen on the Steinway concert grand set on the ballroom stage. Worth $180,000, its polished black surface reflected the chandeliers like still water. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 sat open on the stand, mocking her failed piano lessons as a child. When Ethan passed by with his cleaning cart, curiosity and cruelty sparked. "You," she called, her ice-blue gaze pinning him. "Do you know what this is worth?" Ethan paused, mop dripping. "More than I'll see in a lifetime," he said quietly. Clara's lips curved into a sharp smile. "Exactly, and yet people like you think you belong near it." She let her laughter tinkle across the ballroom, inviting others to join. Then, with a cruel flourish, she said, "Tell you what, play this piano, and I'll marry you." The crowd erupted in amused laughter. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He had endured worse, but the words followed him like graffiti etched into his mind. "Play this piano, and I'll marry you." By evening, the Meridian Club glittered like a palace. Crystal chandeliers bathed the marble floors in golden light. Senators, tech moguls, European nobility, all gathered to toast Clara Beaumont. She was radiant in midnight blue, her diamond bracelet flashing like a metronome as she orchestrated every moment. Just before the program began, Clara's voice cut through the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "I discovered something troubling today. One of our custodial staff believed he understood fine culture. Phones lifted, hungry for drama." Laughter rippled. "Mr. Cole," she called it, "please join us." Every eye turned. Ethan, dressed in his plain black uniform, stepped forward with measured dignity. He had no escape. Clara had prepared the perfect trap. Gesturing to the Steinway, Clara announced, "If this gentleman can play even the opening measures of that Chopin piece, I'll marry him here and now." She withdrew a velvet box from her purse and placed a glittering 10-carat ring on the music stand. Gasps and laughter filled the ballroom. Phones streamed live. Hashtags spread like wildfire. Ethan stood in the center of it all, the janitor about to be mocked before the world. And then he remembered his grandfather's words. "They can take your job, your money, even your dreams, but they cannot take what God put in your hands." Ethan removed his gloves, revealing long, elegant fingers scarred from cleaning chemicals. He touched the gold watch his grandfather had left him. Then he met Clara's gaze. "I accept," he said simply. The ballroom fell into a hush as Ethan lowered himself onto the piano bench. His hands hovered above the keys, trembling not from fear but from memory. The Steinway's surface reflected his dark skin, the diamond ring, and the expectant eyes of Manhattan's elite. Then he began. The opening notes floated like dawn breaking, soft yet commanding. His fingers moved with a grace born from 10,000 hours of practice. Each phrase breathed, each chord carried the weight of years of silence. At first the crowd chuckled. Then they leaned forward. Smirks dissolved into awe. The janitor was not fumbling, he was playing with mastery. By the time he reached the thunderous octaves of the ballade's second section, jaws had dropped. His left hand thundered with power, his right hand soared with fire. Runs blurred into cascades of sound so precise they seemed impossible. The Steinway sang, transformed by his touch into an orchestra of emotion. The gala's live stream exploded with comments. "Who is this man? This is genius." "I'm crying." Count Alessandro De Marco, a European patron of the arts, rose from his chair with tears in his eyes. "Magnifico!" he cried. Others followed, clapping mid-performance. Even senators who had never set foot in a concert hall sat transfixed, undone by beauty. Clara's triumphant smirk faltered. She had expected humiliation. Instead, she was watching a coronation. The final cadenza arrived like lightning. Ethan's hands blurred, splitting into independent voices, weaving complexity beyond comprehension. And then, silence. One perfect heartbeat where time stood still. With the final chords, the ballroom shook with thunderous sound. Ethan lifted his hands, letting the harmonies linger like incense in sacred air. And then, silence again. 4 long seconds, where no one breathed. Then the eruption. The standing ovation began with Count De Marco and spread like wildfire. Applause, cheers, tears. Phones recorded not mockery, but history. The Lincoln Center director pushed through the crowd. "Sir," he said to Ethan, his voice trembling, "you belong on the world's greatest stages." Not cleaning them. Business cards appeared from tuxedo pockets, record labels, patrons, scouts, Deutsche Grammophon, Carnegie Hall. Everyone wanted him. The live stream reached 500,000 viewers. A GoFundMe for Ethan's mother's surgery hit $100,000 within minutes. Naomi burst through the doors, breathless. "Ethan, Mum's watching live. Someone already paid for the surgery." Ethan's composure cracked. Tears filled his eyes, but he stood tall. The janitor was gone. The artist had arrived. And Clara. She stood frozen, her face pale, her empire collapsing in real time. The 10-carat ring still sat on the piano, mocking her arrogance. Her humiliation trended worldwide. Hashtags turned against her. Janitor genius. Talent has no uniform. Ethan picked up his gloves and placed them gently beside the ring. "The pleasure," he said quietly, "was all mine." The ballroom roared. Clara Beaumont, Queen of Cruelty, had been dethroned by the very man she tried to destroy. 3 months later, Ethan Cole stepped onto the stage at Carnegie Hall. He wore a perfectly tailored tuxedo, but his grandfather's gold watch gleamed on his wrist, grounding him in the journey that had brought him here. In the front row sat his mother, healthy after surgery, radiant with pride. Naomi beamed beside her, thriving at Columbia. Marcus, the security guard who had once unlocked a practice room, wore his first suit. Ethan sat at another Steinway grand. The lights dimmed. Silence fell. Then his hands touched the keys, and Chopin's Ballad No. 1 filled the hall. When the final notes faded, the ovation seemed endless. Ethan bowed, tears in his eyes. He remembered his grandfather's words once more. They can take your job, your money, even your dreams. But they cannot take what God puts in your soul. That night, 2,000 people understood. Talent has no uniform. Genius does not wear a name tag. And dignity, true dignity, cannot be mocked into silence. The story spread worldwide. Ethan became a symbol of hidden excellence, proof that greatness walks among us in coveralls and uniforms, waiting to be seen. Clara Beaumont faded into disgrace, her empire broken by the weight of her own cruelty. And Ethan? He played, for his family, for his grandfather, for every unseen talent cleaning floors, stocking shelves, driving buses, carrying symphonies in silence.